Hello, ServeWellers. This week I'm happy to announce that your moment has arrived. You are finally moving into junior year, arguably the toughest all-around year in high school. Well, why is that the case? Because there are no more excuses. By now, you should have the system down. You know the rules of the road, the teachers, the students, the coaches, the counselors. You should have your high school on lockdown by now. And what that means is expectations will be high. Teachers and coaches will be looking for you to take your schoolwork and your sports and your leadership and your extracurriculars to the next level. And you should be ready to embrace this challenge. You should be looking forward to staring into the belly of the beast. It's time to take everything that you've learned so far and put it to the test. Everything that you've been working toward is now on the table. So prepare yourself. Remember, your goal is to maximize your effort and attention to 3 pillars. We've talked about them before: academics, athletics, and leadership. And I know I must sound like a broken record by now, but this is the template that you will be judged against. It's what ROTC programs and service academies use to evaluate your potential to become an effective military leader. So let's go through each pillar and discuss how to manage each of these as a rising junior. Let's start with athletics. By now, you probably have a pretty good idea of where you stand as an athlete, whether in your high school or compared to other teenagers around the country. When applying to service academies and ROTC programs, remember, your level of athleticism is a bigger deal than it is when applying to traditional colleges, hopefully for obvious reasons. So now I want you to think about which category of athlete describes you best right now. Are you, number 1, a recruited athlete? By now, you should have a very good idea of if you have what it takes to play at a service academy, if that was your goal. You should be talking to the coaches, getting a sense of whether or not they're interested in you. Have they invited you up for a recruiting trip? Do they need someone your size with your skills at your position? Have you sent them a highlight video if that's appropriate for your sport? If you haven't done any of that yet, and you aspire to play your sport at one of the service academies, now would be the time to reach out to them. Please don't expect those coaches to find you. This is extremely rare. You need to reach out to them. In fact, you need to begin, if you haven't already, an all-out marketing campaign that puts you in the best light possible. You have to sell yourself. You want to get the coach's attention and figure out if you're barking up the right tree or not. If a coach from a service academy is interested, that's a very good sign because, as you may recall, appointments are very difficult to come by. And if you have a coach advocating for you in the process, your chances of getting an appointment will go quite a bit higher. Or are you, number 2, a high school standout? You may be very talented at one or even many sports, but that doesn't mean that you'll have what it takes to play a Division I sport at one of the academies, or maybe even a Division III sport at the Coast Guard Academy. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, most applicants don't have such aspirations. They love sports, they love playing, but not necessarily at the next level. Or maybe you do have the talent, but you're just not interested in playing at the next level. Either way, use this year to have your best and most productive year athletically that you can in your sport. Try to become the team captain earlier, either this year or next year. Help your team to win. If you play an individual sport, try to rack up some awards and some recognition. The service academies and ROTC programs want to see and know where you stand athletically. Are you a highly skilled individual sport athlete? Are you a team leader? Do you play multiple sports? If you're not going to be a recruited athlete, the next best things would be 1, leading a team sport as captain. Number 2, playing on multiple sports. Number 3, playing high contact sports. Or number 4, showing a high level of play or some high level of accomplishment, whether that's MVP awards or some type of regional or national recognition. Or are you 3, a recreational athlete? Not every ROTC candidate or midshipman or cadet is a standout or recruited athlete. Many are, but not everyone. Hopefully, even if traditional sports are not your strong suit, you've been able to participate in some type of activity that shows some athleticism. It could be archery or shooting or distance running or martial arts or triathlon or scuba, something that shows the selection boards that you will not be in over your head. Because remember, exercise will be an everyday activity at the service academies for sure, but at ROTC units as well. And no, not every candidate needs or wants to be a Navy SEAL, but they will want to see evidence of some baseline level of athletic ability. And it will be your job to demonstrate that. So if sports aren't necessarily your thing, start getting creative. One way to prove your athletic prowess is to do very well on the CFA, the Candidate Fitness Assessment. We're going to cover this in much greater detail in a couple of weeks. Basically, the CFA is an athletic test where you have to perform things like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, running, throwing, shuttle run. And a strong score on that test can put the admissions officers' minds at ease. The second of the three pillars is leadership. As a junior, hopefully you will have some leadership opportunities this year that you might not have had over the last 2 years. If you played your cards right, you should have some seniority in a few clubs or groups or teams or activities. And remember, leadership can take many forms. It doesn't have to be the captain of a sports team or the student body president. It could be a project that you led in school or outside of school or something that you planned this summer. The point is, now is the time to pull out all the stops. Next year won't really be a thing. It's not even really going to be an option. By the time you get a leadership role next year, your applications will already be submitted. So try to get it done in the next 8 to 10 months. And finally, pillar number 3, academics. Most would argue the most important factor. The first thing you should expect as a junior is that you will be working harder academically than you have for the first 2 years in high school, maybe combined. You usually take your most rigorous courses this year, whether that's AP classes or honors or IB classes. Teachers will give you more responsibility, and you will be held more accountable for your work and for your time management. Service academies and ROTC boards want to see how you handle this workload because that's the type of pressure that you'll be facing at a service academy or an ROTC school. Can you handle it? This is not something to be nervous about. It's something to be excited about. Under the umbrella of academics are 3 core academic metrics to keep your eyes on. And we've talked about these before. GPA, rigor of your classes, and standardized test scores, typically the SAT or the ACT. Let's talk about what's important about each one of these. The first is GPA. By now, we all know what GPA means. The key is to get your best GPA this year. If you've had a few hiccups freshman and sophomore year, oftentimes they'll be forgiven if you can show that you've gotten your act together by junior year. This is your opportunity to make up for any miscues that you've had up until now. The second thing is the rigor of your classes. There's not much you can do about this now because your classes are already set. Hopefully you've taken a rigorous course load. What you can still do is make sure that you're not sloughing off when you pick your senior year classes. And lastly, number 3, standardized tests. We've talked quite a bit about the SAT and the ACT, and I'm not going to dwell on this. I have hammered this home for the last month. I hope you've scheduled to sit for your first tests sometime in the next 3 months. Make sure you go back and review some of the previous lessons if you want a refresher on the SAT or ACT. Okay, now I will admit that is a lot to digest, but I wanted to lay it all out there because this is information that you must know now before it's too late. So please watch this video a few times, rewind it, pause it, watch it over again, read the notes down below, fill out your journal, whatever you can do to ensure that this lesson sticks. You are about to embark on a very important year. So good luck. Until next week, continue to study hard, play hard, and don't forget to serve others.